So I've talked in the past about how anime studios treat their workers, their animators, keyframers, and all that good stuff, how they're being overworked. It's a stressful work environment, there's very little pay, and not much really drive for them to do anything else other than that, because there's really nothing else for them to do other than animate. So this article I found is focusing on this new stress test law that Japan is trying to incorporate into their society, because the main reason for this is people are dying for their work. They're committing suicide, they're just dying at their desks, dropping left and right, and with Japan's declining population and growth along that sort of thing, it's not a good sign for them. Work-related stress has been flagged by the Japanese government as a threat to the country's workforce. In the government's first investigation into karoshi, or death by overwork, a recent study found that 23% of Japanese companies have employees that log at least 80 hours of overtime each month, and workers putting in more than 100 hours of overtime was found in 12% of corporate Japan. To curb the rate of overwork, a stress test law was introduced to require companies to provide annual mental health checks for employees. The first deadline was on November 3rd. Holy shit. 100 hours of overtime. 80 to 100 hours of overtime. That is insane to even think about. I mean, people or companies over here in America are freaking saying, okay, if you go over 40, we'll pay you, but we really don't want you to go over 40 hours because that is too strenuous for you. I mean, sure, there's other companies that do a little bit more, but that is because the job demands it and people knowingly sign on to it. But for Japan, it seems like it's a little different. They're pretty much just saying, hey, work for us or get out. That seems like the mentality going on here. A high-profile criminal investigation into the suicide of a 24-year-old advertising employee revealed the woman had been subject to illegal overtime, a practice labor officials say is routine at many companies, in spite of government crackdowns and awareness campaigns. Karoshi is still largely cited in cases of depression, heart failure, and suicide among employees who work more than 100 hours of overtime. No fucking shit. It is a routine illegal practice in corporate Japan to make people work so many hours, so much overtime. That is double, triple shifts right there. And we're all human beings. There's only so much we can do. I mean, sure, everyone says like Japan's like, oh, Asians are all, they have nothing but work, work. No time for family. We just work. No, they're still human beings at the end of the day, and this is just insane. And this goes into also the anime community and the people who work in it. Doing 100 hours of overtime is unthinkable, but put it in this perspective like this, I'm just kind of speechless right now. So a little more digging around the internet, I found some details on what the stress test laws meant. And one thing I wanted to point out was employees found to be suffering from high levels of stress are entitled to request a doctor's examination, which the employer should arrange after the consultation. Measures to reduce stress should be agreed between the employer, employee, and physician. So annually, which was pretty much meaning yearly, these employees within a 50-plus work environment are required to take this test. Well, not exactly required, but are really much recommended to do so they can figure out how stressed they are and what they can do about it. But unfortunately, it's not going to be required for them to do anything about it if the employee doesn't want to do so. It has to be agreed between them, their doctor, and the employer. So if one of them doesn't agree, then it's pretty much out the door. So this is a little bit of a tricky situation. So I haven't seen anything about consequences to the employers who don't implement this law or abide by it. But for right now, like I said, I'm speechless. This is crazy. I mean, people are dying left and right in Japan, from animation studios to corporate Japan. It ain't right. It just ain't right. That's all I gotta say. I mean, this is some pretty crazy stuff. I mean, you always hear about how Japan people are always working and how there's little time for family or being home, just relaxing. Even when they're home relaxing, it's always work. I gotta think about work, make sure it's all said and done, make sure everything can be provided for my family. Or maybe there's even times where there's single people who say, okay, I've got nothing left to live for, I'm just gonna jump off the freaking roof and end it all right there. That's the mentality these people are having right now. I mean, it's all sunshine and rainbows, whatever, when you see from media. But that is not always the case. And that is just depressing to think about, even to have the thought of knowing that it's just going on right now. So all I can say right now is this: hopefully the Japanese stress test law gets implemented into more places, gets more required, make sure employers abide by these rules and make sure that there's consequences if they don't. Honestly, if someone wants to work, let them work, but forcing people to work that many hours to the point where they're killing themselves or just dying by heart attacks, exhaustion. Something needs to be done, and like I said, I hope this Japanese stress test law does something about that. Because believe it or not, anime is part of the corporate Japan, and people are working themselves to death, drawing 100+ hours, getting very little pay because they're paid by how many drawings they can do within a certain amount of time, and if they don't, then they don't get paid at all. So right now it's a sticky situation, but I just thought I'd bring you that kind of information, let you know what's going on in Japan right now with the workforce, and maybe just give you a little more insight. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. This is Nigel Ascura signing out. Later.